Hello and good afternoon to you, and welcome you to Lecture Hour on Radio Universe 105.7. With me, Hayford Yabwa. This is your most authoritative and intellectual research analysis show in Ghana. Lecture Hour, a show that bothers on economics, governance, politics, history, and culture. The pleasure is mine to be with you on the show. So what we have on the table straight away? Why must Gandhi fall? Why must Gandhi fall?
Africa, 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 yeah. Mama Africa.
A man Gandhi whose history has come to a lot of Ghanaians in an epiphany owing to the erection of his statue on the University of Ghana Legon campus.
Yeah. Mama Africa, we cry.
He is also admired for his supposed philosophy of non-violent approach towards social injustice. Albeit his effigy erected on the premier university in Ghana attracted some disapproval. This resulted in disunity in diversity among some academics at the university. Gandhi under cross-examination. Gandhi under cross-examination.
Tell me why we wallow in the mud.
What is that we don't know about the man Gandhi?
Africa,
The untold history of Gandhi on Lecture Hour right now.
Africa,
Don't go away.
right.
Stay tuned in. So as to till it done, we're gonna have to listen to an insert. And this insert was made by Dr. Obadele Kambon.
The land is
Dr. Obadele Kambon is a research fellow at the Institute of African Studies here at the University of Ghana.
we covered it all in blood. Tell me why we
So the question is, why should Gandhi fall from the campuses of University of Ghana?
Africa,
Not the Legon campus, the Kumasi campus, the city campus in Accra, nor the campuses across the country.
Africa,
Why should it fall from those campuses? Please send me your views right away
Africa, Africa,
on WhatsApp 0244199803, 0244199803,
for peace.
on Facebook at Lecture Hour 105.7, and on Twitter at Hayford4GH. Of course, you can also call in at 245 on 0262512963, 0262512963.
Hi, my name is Stella Maruso. I am treating you all to listen to Lecture Hour for your boy. Mondays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. and on Fridays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Shall we go in now for our insert and come back in-house and look at the issue?
This is brief, let me not say brief. It's a presentation on why Gandhi must fall, all right? So basically, it's set up along several lines, Gandhi's words, Gandhi's actions, from beginning, to the end. So it's time in South Africa and then also going through India, right? So a little bit of the background for me, at least on this, is that the statue was put up somewhere around mid-June. It wasn't very well publicized. The president's visit was publicized somewhat, but not the statue aspect. And I guess, people generally think Gandhi is great, so why do we even need to, ask anyone? So no one was consulted. It was just, done. So myself, I just happened to be driving past the statue, And I said, you know, I'm like, who is this? And then I see it's Gandhi. I said, this means people have no idea who Gandhi was. So I decided to take about 2 or 3 photos with my phone and send out about 70 or so of Gandhi's most racist quotes. Because I said people obviously didn't know if they knew better, they would do better. So I sent it and it started on the UG staff list conversation going. And by and large, people were saying we had no idea about this. And then at that time, the Vice Chancellor said, oh, well, we think maybe he changed by the time he got older. So in response to that, I sent another email that talked about his oppression of the Dalits. Now the Dalits are the black untouchables of India. So I'm saying even for you to say that means that you have no idea about Gandhi's later life. So what we want to do is just give some of the quotes, the facts from both Gandhi himself and the people who he was oppressing, you know, wherever we can. So this is it. So we start off with a proverb, which is if a liar has 1,000 years head start on a journey, a truthful man can pursue and catch him in a single day. We're basically going to show all the various lies, intentional lies, both by Gandhi and about Gandhi. And this is another quote usually attributed to Hitler and Goebbels. Now, it would interest you as well that Gandhi also had correspondence with Hitler, referring to him as a friend and things of that nature. We won't go so much into that, but of course all of this is documented in the collected works of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And the quote is, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. This really sums up Gandhi's life more than anything else. So we'll continue. Now, just for myself as an educator, there's a quote, an educator in a system of oppression is either a revolutionary or an oppressor. So this is my interest. You know, if I'm here, either I just say, you know, you all just get on your hands and knees and pray to this guy who called you an animal, or, you know, you stand up on your own 2 feet and act like you have a spine, right? So it's what we refer to as, you've heard of propaganda. Well, this is propaganda, also known as impropaganda because it's not proper at all. So this is Gandhi's revisionist epiphany. So Gandhi arrived in South Africa in 1893. Now, at that time, there was supposedly some type of incident that occurred, you know, to him on the train where he was thrown off the train, which is what we see in the movie. It would interest you to know, however, that the very first, now Gandhi wrote about everything. He tripped over a rock, he's writing about it, he's putting it in the Indian opinion. There was not a peep about this so-called train incident until 16 years after. Now the reason for that is because he didn't think it up until 16 years after, and it was at the prompting of Reverend Joseph J. Doak, who came into his office and said, Gandhi, are you ready to be a martyr? Meaning basically, are you going to give me permission to do whatever I need to write, whatever I need to write in order to forward this cause? And Gandhi gave his consent, but we'll go into this. So this is the very first account of it anywhere, is in 1909. So at Pietermaritzburg, before starting, a fellow passenger called the guard, and to his surprise, Mr. Gandhi was ordered to come out and go into the van compartment. And then a constable was brought, and the Indian stranger was forcibly ejected. His bundles pitched out after him, and with the train gone, he was left to shiver in the waiting room all night. So this is the very first documentation of this. Now, he wrote about things, and we'll see this, in 1893, he wrote about atrocities that happened to other Indians that he heard about, things that he had witnessed, but not a peep about this supposed train incident.
Hello, my name is Pastor Jones Boache. I love listening to Lecture Hour with Hayford Yeboah 105.7. I entreat you all to keep listening.
You heard the voice of Dr. Obadele Kambon, research fellow here at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ghana. Yes, trying to unpack the untold history of Mahatma Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Yes. So, welcome back in house, and we're going to look at the issue, the untold history of this man, such that his effigy, if you like, his statue, is not even accepted or tolerated, if you like, countenance within the compounds or the campuses of University of Ghana. Why? We will get to know the reason very soon. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was the preeminent leader of the Indian independence movement in British-ruled India. He was born on October 2nd to October 2, 1869 in Pobanda, India. He was assassinated in January 30, 1948, New Delhi, India. His wife was Kastuba Gandhi. Born in 1883 and died in 1944. His parents were Karamchand Gandhi, Putlibai Gandhi. Yes, in May 1883, at 13, Gandhi was married to Kustaba Maganji, a girl also aged 13, through the arrangement of their respective parents, as is customary in India. Following this entry into Samadas College at the University of Bombay, she bore him the first of 4 sons. In 1888, Gandhi was unhappy at college, following his parents' wishes to take the bar, when he was offered the opportunity of furthering his studies overseas at University College London. Aged 18, he accepted with alacrity, starting there in September 1888. Determined to adhere to Hindu principles, which included vegetarianism as well as alcohol and sexual abstinence, he found London restrictive initially, but once he had found kindred spirit, he flourished and pursued the philosophical study of religions, including Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, and others, having professed no particular interest in religion up until then. Following admission to the English bar and his return to India, he found work difficult to come by, and in 1893 accepted a year's contract to work for an Indian firm in Natal, South Africa. So today, my guests, Dr. Obadele Kambon, a research fellow here at Institute of African Studies, will tell us what happened in Natal, South Africa, when he was there. So, listeners, you can send in your views, your comment via 0244 on WhatsApp, 0244199803, 0244199803. And also you can call in at 245 on these two numbers. The first one is 0262 512 963, 0262 512 963, or 0248 705629, 0248 705629, and your voice will be heard across the world. Yeah, so we go straight to the point why Gandhi must fall. Someone who influenced leaders like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our own Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of the Republic of Ghana, and also influenced that of Dr. Martin Luther King, the Reverend Minister in America, with his philosophy, non-violent resistance, non-violent approach towards social injustice. Why would some group of people, academics, oppose his erection? And even that even though we still have some dust, has settled as far as his mobility, his statue mobility is concerned, they still believe it should be done quickly, and it's still there. My guest in the studio, Dr. Obadele Kambon, is pleased and poised to speak to the issue. Welcome, Doc, to the studios of Radio Universe.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Why would such a person become an outcast to lands?
So this is very good. Thank you for asking. Well, one thing, there's a quote by Massey where he says, "They must find it difficult, those who accept authority as truth, as opposed to those who accept truth as authority." Our situation now is that people just look at someone who is authoritative and say, "Oh."
Yes, but before we go deeply into it, we're going to look at why it must fall in the first place, and that is starting from what happened when he was on board the train. The warfare, his philosophy concerning warfare, a plea for Indian volunteering, soldiers fund, pledge of allegiance, desire to fight the Kafirs, nursing wounded Zulus, the inconsistencies and all that. So the floor is yours, sir.
All right, as I was getting ready to say, they must find it difficult, those who accept authority as truth, as opposed to those who accept truth as authority. So the situation we're in now is that because Gandhi was able to successfully calm Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela. Now, Nelson Mandela, I'm not sure if while he was in Robben Island, he was able to read the collective works of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. For us as scholars, we have access to everything Gandhi ever wrote. You understand? Every letter, every note, every column, newspaper article, everything that he wrote. Now, because we have a more circumspect view of who Gandhi was, I think that we would be in a much better position to assess Gandhi's relationship to African people. Now, let's go to first off, I want to let you understand that Gandhi, he talked about experimenting with the truth. Now,
and by experimenting with the truth, what does it mean?
Very good. He leaves it up to the imagination, but I'll give you some examples to show you that, to me, experimenting with the truth is a euphemism for lying. So, for example, in 1893, that's when his supposed train incident occurred. Now, if you get a chance, I would recommend that you read a book called Gandhi Under Cross-Examination.
Gandhi Under Cross-Examination.
Right.
Great.
So that's G.B. Singh and Tim Watson. Now, in it, they mention or they document the 4 different versions of this supposed train incident. Now, in each one of these versions, you find that there are inconsistencies. In one, he goes into the waiting room, and there was someone in there. In the next version, he goes into the waiting room, no one is in there, and then someone comes in. In one version, it's a police constable who throws him from the train. And then in another version, it's a railway worker. In one version, there's a couple people who come, 2 or 3. You understand? So in each version, he's experimenting with the truth, we can say. He's giving a different version depending on what type of effect he wants to create. So if he's saying, in the earlier version he comes up with, he says, I went in there, it was dark, nobody was in there, and then a passenger came in around 12 o'clock. In the next version he gives, he says, I went in there and there was a white man seated, but I was afraid of him. In the first version, he says, this passenger came in and wanted to speak to me, but I was in no mood to talk. In another version, this guy who's already in there is apparently, he's afraid of this person. These are different things. Now he talks about in the coach incident. In the coach incident, in one version he says, the first version that he talks about, he says, I was punched in the face so hard that it nearly knocked me off my feet, and then punched again.
Okay.
In another version he says, I was boxed in my ears. I hope you're getting the...
Yes, but before you continue,
Yeah.
let me come in with this question. Why would he want to come experiment with the truths? Why? What do you think?
Well, just like Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the idea that the ends justify the means. So, if your goal is to do whatever you want to do, in the case of South Africa, his goal was to get the Indians recognized as co-colonists. And this is in
Co-colonists.
co-colonists. So this is saying that, look, we're all Indo-Aryans, and this is, Gandhi's own term, talking to the British. Look, we're all Indo-Aryans. If you look at Indo-European, Sanskrit, Latin, Germanic, all of them have the same root. So as Indo-Aryans, you should look at us as partners in this enterprise to colonize these African people, who he referred to as 1 degree removed from a savage animal, savage, half heathen, so forth and so on, just ad infinitum. So again, the ends that he's looking for is, treat us as you treat, at least somewhere underneath the British, but don't lump us together with these savage black Africans. And he actually, sometimes people get caught up, because let's start off, people didn't know anything about Gandhi in terms of the real Gandhi. All they knew was the myth.
Yeah.
So now that they've gotten a taste of his words, then they want to get stuck on his words. But his words aren't even the main problem. The main problem is what his actions were. So, he fought against the Zulu people, and he had, calls for supplies to help the British. He called for arms, rifles, so that the Indians could be able to shoot up these Zulus who had a rebellion because they were being unfairly taxed, so forth and so on. They had all these grievances. And Gandhi, he called for, you have to train us with arms, you have to train us with rifles, so that we can play our part in the defense of the colony.
If I may ask, how did Indians get to South Africa? Because all we know is the Zulu, Natals, and the rest, who are Africans. How did Indians get to South Africa?
Okay, this is a very simple question, and you find it went on throughout South Africa, anywhere the British were, Kenya, other places in the West Indies, so-called Caribbean. So all of these places. So the British found it was useful to bring them as sort of like, what they would call in their terminology coolies. So these are workers who are going to work on behalf of the British Empire, because oftentimes the natives would be recalcitrant. Of course, people are coming here stealing your land, stealing your gold, stealing your women, raping them, so forth and so on. Why do you want to cooperate with them? So with these Indians, they found, a populace who are willing to cooperate. They did a similar thing with the Chinese and so forth and so on. But this is how the Indians got there. Now, again, I want to set this up so you can understand Gandhi, one, as himself, someone who engaged in experiments with the truth, or to put it plainly, a liar.
Okay.
And then there's a whole lie of Gandhi. This whole image of Gandhi in and of itself is a lie. So even though he fought against the Zulus, and he became a sergeant major, you understand, rising to the ranks, and he himself was the one who got together a corps in order to support the British. So if the British get hurt, all right, we're there to support them. So this is his own words. Now later, he backtracked on this, or not really backtracked, he lied about it. So in his autobiography, he says, my heart was with the Zulus. My work consisted of only nursing the wounded Zulus. But we have all of his field reports, and we have his documentation of articles that he wrote. So at the time, he was like, no, we're fighting for the defense of the colony. But then he lies about it later and says, my heart was with the Zulus. He says later on in his autobiography, my work consisted of only tending the wounded Zulus. But then we have the names of all of these British soldiers who he was tending, nursing, so that they could go back and shoot up more Zulu people.
So
first off, Gandhi as a liar. Both the Pietermaritzburg train incident, that did not happen. And there's a reason why that supposedly happened in 1893. He wrote some thousands and thousands of pages before 1909, which was the very first account of it.
Okay.
You're
Yeah. Yeah, so from what you said, it means that you have a problem with integrity when it comes to integrity with that, man,
Yes.
Gandhi.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Integrity is questionable, and that's even the lens through which you should see his other machinations, later on. So
Against the black folks.
against the black folks in Africa, and then also against the black folks in India. So there are indigenous black people in India, Dravidians, so-called scheduled tribes, scheduled castes, and so forth and so on, Dalits, the black untouchables of India. So after he got done oppressing the black people and fighting against the black people there, and also let me not leave this out, he, by many people, especially in South Africa, is known as the father of apartheid. And you can, do searches on this. And why? Because he was part of institutionalizing apartheid. So prior to his coming, you had one entrance for the British, you had another entrance for everyone else. Okay. And what he agitated for was a separate entrance for the Indians, so that they didn't have to go through the same entrance as these savage Kafirs. And when he's saying that, he means you, my friend Hayford. So this is exactly what he's talking about. And, by doing this, he basically sets up this multi-tiered system on par with what you found in India. So in India, you have the Brahmins, you have the Kshatriyas, you have the Vaishyas, you have the Shudras, and then underneath that, you have the Dalits. He basically brought this multi-layered system where you have, the British, the whites on top, then you have the Indians, underneath that, but then at the very bottom is where you found the black people.
What did he do in basically in India at the time against the black folks?
Very good. So there was a satyagraha, which was, this peaceful, non-violent protest by the Dalit people. Now the Dalit
Satyagraha.
Right?
Satyagraha.
So this is like a spirit force where, you're using non-violence to melt the heart of your opponent. You understand? Now, one thing that the Dr. Ambedkar, who was a leader of the Dalits, they did this satyagraha in order to integrate the temple and also integrate the wells, so they could drink from this lake. They could go into the temples, so forth and so on. Now, when this happened, you would think that okay, they're intentionally using Gandhi's tactic that he was using in South Africa in order to get rights for the Indians against the indigenous black people there. But what he did is that he condemned it in very strong terms. And he says, you're using this technique against your own kith and kin, the Hindus. You understand? So he said, Satyagraha becomes Duragraha, which is this demonic, devilish force, because you're using it against your kith and kin. Now look at the double standard. A few years later, 1932, he used fast unto the death to force these Dalits away from their rights that they were going for, the double vote, was the McDonald Pact. They were trying to get constitutional protection, but Gandhi said, I will fast to the death in order to prevent you from getting this. And they only needed it for 20 years. It was only a 20-year term, but Gandhi was willing to die to prevent this from happening. Another thing was also he was intent, and you should read a couple of texts on this. One is The Doctor and the Saint. That's Arundhati Roy, a colleague who we've been corresponding around this whole issue. And then also by Dr. Ambedkar, contemporary of Gandhi, what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchables. And he documents all of this information. Now, in this, what you see is Gandhi's double standard. Where first he says, you're using this technique against us upper caste Hindus. That's now Duragraha, this devilish force. But then he does the same thing against them, and it's okay. You understand? So what he says is, he condemns them for trying to use these techniques, whatever, but then later on he forces them to sign this Pune Pact and basically sign away their rights under the threat of being lynched in the street, as they always are, being dismembered, decapitated, burned alive, women raped. They have a thing where they say having sex with a lower caste woman is dirty, but rape is pure. So every single day, up to this very day today, that we're sitting here, you have numerous cases on a daily basis of women being raped, being killed.
I remember the medical student who was raped.
And in that, youths who were raped, but these are things that just go under the radar. But this is modern day India. And then this is not only the indigenous black Indians who are there. In this same year, you had an African from Congo who was bludgeoned to death in the street. And you have all these attacks against continental Africans, students who are there in India. I hope you're understanding.
Yes.
So when you're looking at this type of situation, you're finding, Gandhi's consistency. So on the one hand, he's consistent against the black people in South Africa. Then on the other hand, he's also consistent against the black people in India and fighting against their rights of all across in each one of these cases. So, you know, this is what we have a challenge with. Now, the other side of this is that even when, for us to be discussing all of these things about Gandhi, the pros and the cons, the downside of this is that this takes away from us being able to talk about our own African heroes. Now, I gave a seminar where I mentioned so many of our African heroes. I mentioned the first book in the history of the entire world was written by an African. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's part of our curriculum here in Ghana, but I'm pretty sure it is not. That was Ptah-hotep, the world's first multi-genius. That was also an African, and that was Imhotep. I also mentioned the first outright female ruler, Sobek Neferu, on the face of the entire planet. You know, but we don't hear about these names yet, and still we hear about, you know, random Europeans. So people talk about the Hippocratic Oath for Hippocrates. Okay, well, do you know that the very first physician on the face of the entire planet was an African? Hesi Ra, a contemporary of Imhotep. You know, we can go through Pesachet, the first female physician, around that same time. So we don't even know the names of our own heroes. But yet, and that is the reason why we say, okay, well, let's just find the European who's nicer to us. And if you look during colonial days and slavery, chattel slavery days on plantations, you had people who would literally get into fights over, my master is better than your master. My master is richer than your master.
Really?
Literally, you understand? And this is basically what we're dealing with. We're choosing between, all right, let's choose Gandhi, or maybe let's choose Castro, or let's choose, because we don't even know that we have our own heroes, so we just try to find the most benevolent slave master that we can find out there, and it's definitely a problem.
Okay. Right, it's getting interesting here on Radio Universe 105.7 with me, Hayford Yeboah, on Lecture Hour. We're trying to look at why Gandhi must fall from the campuses of University of Ghana, or if you like, any public institutions, right? Yes, so we're looking at why should Gandhi fall from the campuses of University of Ghana. You can keep sending your views, comment on 0244199803, 30244199803, and also on Twitter at Hayford4GH, on Facebook Lecturer 105.7, and you can call in at 245 on 0262512963, 0262512963, or 0248705629, 0248705629, right here on Radio Universe. And my guest in the studio is Dr. Obadele Kambon.
Right.
Yes,
I want to share a quick quote with you, if I can.
Okay.
Let's go back to South Africa, and then we'll come back to India, so we can see the consistency all throughout his life.
But yes, but perhaps yes, he's noted. To have been using words like kafir.
Yes.
What does it mean?
Very good. This is a term, now etymologically is different from its actual usage. Etymologically, it has something to do with those who are not within the pale of the Muslim fold, right? Now, the way it's used in South Africa is as a derogatory racial slur that since 1976 it has been actionable in court. So this is even during the apartheid era, is seen as the most offensive word that you can use against anyone, and is seen as maligning and detrimental on that level. So when you say this word to someone in South Africa, it's seen as something that is very horrific. Now, there are people who say, oh, well, it wasn't so bad during Gandhi's time. But again, you can look at the double standard, because kafir was a term that the whites used against the blacks. And Gandhi, considering himself as being of the same Indo-Aryan stock, he used that term liberally. But then when you read about his challenges with using the term coolie, now this was a term that the whites used for the Indians. He had thorough, he says, they refer to us even as a coolie lawyer, a coolie doctor. He is up in arms. How can you call us this degrading term? But then when it comes to the Africans, kafir to the point that you don't even know that he knows they have names. You understand?
Okay. Yes, so now go back to South Africa, what he was doing then.
Right. So what he said is that if the government only realized what reserve force is being wasted, they would make use of it and give Indians the opportunity of a thorough training for actual warfare. So look this up. This is November 1905 in the Indian Opinion newspaper.
Okay.
You can find the collected works of Mahatma, as they call him, Gandhi, volume 5, page 11. So all of these things, you should look at what he actually did. So even in terms of the term kafir, and let me come with another quote. It's a quote from Neely Fuller, a specialist on racism. And he says, if you don't understand what white supremacy is, what it is and how it works, everything else you think you understand will only confuse you. If you don't understand what racism, white supremacy is, what it is and how it works, anything else you think you understand will only confuse you. So for people, they don't even know what racism is. They think, oh, you just don't like this person, you don't like it. No, this is a system of action, behavior. It's a system that is used to disenfranchise people, to make sure that they don't get ahead, so forth and so on. So it has to do with power relations, not just ill will or amorphous feelings against other people. And this is again going back to Gandhi. This is what he was able to implement in the Durban post office by creating this separate door so that they didn't have to go into the same thing. This is what he did in the Zulu uprising and literally fighting against them and demanding rifles, demanding arms for the defense of the colony. So even beyond kafir, that's a problem.
Okay.
But beyond that, look at his actions. Look at when he went back to India and he forced these Dalit people away from any type of enfranchisement. So again, when you look going towards the end of his life, you find this is still what he's doing. So he had the Harijan Sevak Singh, and he says, no, Dalits are not allowed to be a part of it. Now from the outset, was looking like, okay, you're going to let this one be part of the board, whatever. He did an about face and says, no, this is penance for those of upper caste Hindus. So therefore, you have to just accept our trusteeship and trust us to take care of you. Now this is after thousands of years of you raping, mutilating, dismembering, burning alive, so forth and so on. And now you're saying that we should just trust you. We don't need any constitutional safeguards. He's willing to die to prevent you from getting any constitutional safeguards. And now we're just, supposed to be subjected to your trusteeship. Now, if you go down to a list of over dozens and dozens and dozens of massacres of Dalits. And when I say massacres, every day there's at least 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 Dalits being killed. But there are all of these huge, huge massacres. And this is what we're looking at in terms of Gandhi's trusteeship. Let me mention a few of them to you. 1968, the Kilvan Manj massacre in Tamil Nadu, the Pulan Devi in Uttar Pradesh, Karam Chedu massacre, and we can keep going down. Ramabai killings, 1997. Now, all of this is from those who were supposed to be trusting as trustees. Now, as I was doing research for this article, it came through that at the border between India and Pakistan, and actually I met a friend who was actually in there. And what you have is these border skirmishes. The Indians are shooting at the Pakistanis, the Pakistanis are shooting at the Indians. And, Godse, this is Nadram Godse, this is the one who assassinated Gandhi. And in his last speech, he held Gandhi responsible for the partition of India, Gandhi and Congress, as responsible for the partition of India. And if you look at the thesis by Arundhati Roy, again, she has a doctorate in the same as the forward to book-length forward to Annihilation of Caste by Dr. Ambedkar. That's in it, she talks about all of what Gandhi was trying to do was dealing with demography. That if you're going into a democratic system, there's basically a system of majority rules. So whoever's in the majority is going to rule. And Gandhi was doing everything he could to make sure that Hindus are in the majority and it's upper caste Hindus who are going to rule, even to the point of saying, you know what, even if we have to partition India and say all Muslims go out there and then we get our own India. So this is, in Godse's words, he was holding Gandhi responsible for this, and this is why he said that he decided to assassinate Gandhi. Now, you can also look at that in terms of...
So could one, describe such acts as being extremist when it comes to religion?
Which acts?
Gandhi's
They're
acts?
just more against, for instance, his
over
act against some other, religious
over 1 million
group.
Muslims were killed during this time. There was so much violence during the partition of India, and even to this day. So Godse, he asked for his ashes to be, once India and Pakistan are reunited, for his ashes to be put in the Indus River of a united India. Now, again, all of these things that we're talking about is very much extremist. He's very much of a Hindu nationalist, a Hindu extremist.
Okay.
And Dr. Ambedkar, who himself was a Dalit, said, okay, if Gandhi is talking about independence, independence for who? Or for whom, rather? Or freedom for whom? Because the Dalits aren't feeling any of that freedom, so why are we interested? And you can look at a parallel, and Ambedkar made a similar parallel at the abolition of chattel enslavement formally.
Right.
That from the very outset, you can talk about the American War of Independence, the American Revolution against Britain. Well, a lot of the black people weren't so much interested in America getting free from Britain, because they were like, these Americans are raping us, killing us, murdering us. Why are we interested in their freedom? Freedom for whom? You understand? So some were even willing to say, all right, let's fight for the British, let's fight for the Americans, let's fight for ourselves, let's not align ourselves with any of them, because we're getting it from all sides. And some of those who fought on the side of the British, once the British lost, they ended up being repatriated up to first Canada, and then some later on back to Africa.
All right. It's past 2:45, and it's important to be going for, musical interlude, and then come back and read our text messages coming from our cherished listeners right in Ghana and elsewhere across the world. So we're going to some music coming from Nanaya Biakunye featuring Fapimpong. I don't know if you know that gentleman, Fapimpong. Yes, they want to preach about peace. In a couple of days we'll be going for our general election, and it's important we create that awareness for peace.
We are one people. We are one nation. Yenara assassini. Hey, abodindi my. Ojana na na num shwegu nyaditu omaye. Edrumi ni wonsusu. Sayebe ye biatwasu. Every man for himself, that's what we like to say. But we all want the same thing, peace and unity. You and me, we can make that change if we work together in harmony. 'Cause we are one people, we are one nation, one nation.
The king of hot dogs is on the way to his head for the world.
Let's all be wise, let's not divide, we must unite. Yeah, yeah, let's all be wise, let's not divide, we must be wise. And make Ghana a motherland, better for you and me. Yeah, 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 let's make Ghana.
Great song coming from Nanaya,
Better for you and me.
one of our own here in Ghana, Biakunye. Unity, the best policy. all connected to the up and coming election that we're going to have in a couple of days. So, Biakuye, let's come together and welcome peace. So, welcome back in house. And my guest, Dr. Obadele Kambon, is in the house. We were still, talking about the Gandhi's. There's a Gandhism, the Gandhism. And
we can call it improper Gandhi.
Improper Gandhi, or Gandhi. All right. So I hope you getting who Gandhi really was. Yes. Some text messages coming in from Patrick. Of University of Ghana, Commonwealth Economics Department. He says that I believe though Gandhi was a great man, but that doesn't mean we should ignore our own heroes and heroines too. We should change the trend of waiting for the death of equally great men before we celebrate them. Hashtag Africa needs change of mindset. Thank you very much, Patrick of Economics Department, University of Ghana. Let me go in for our next message, and I think that is coming from let's still find some others. Yes, Zura is also here at University of Ghana. He says that had I been asked about Gandhi a few months ago, I would have said he was a saint, and I'm sure many people saw him the same way. How blinded we have been all these years. Hashtag Gandhi must fall. From Vandal Zura. Commonwealthian, I should have said. Thank you, Zura, for this message. Let's see some more and then continue with our conversation with our guests. Well-researched, topic by our guests in here in the studio. This is coming from Francisca, and she says that I don't think Gandhi's statue should be demolished because we are in the 21st century, so we should not reason as if we are in the Middle Age. Moreover, the statue can be found in one of best universities, and which university you should have added. Okay, thank you very much, Francisca Casa, coming in with this from Wisconsin International University College, Ghana. Yes, so Doc, we see in all that you have said, and it sums up that he used he describes the black folks in some condescending terms, including kafirs.
1 degree removed from an animal, savage. And I mentioned previously that if you know anything about geometry, shapes, that a circle has 360 degrees. So to say you're 1 degree removed from an animal means you're 359. You might as well say that he's calling African people animals. And the other side of this, and this is what one of those who wrote in was getting at, is that for us to not even honor our own heroes, we don't even know who they are. Now, the psychological effects of this type of situation, there are lots of effects, and you can look at the Clark doll study, and in it basically has children 3-4 years old, and they give them 2 dolls, and they have one white, one black. They ask them which one is the good doll, they say the white one. Which doll is the pretty doll, they say the white one. Which one is the smart doll, they say the white one.
And whose making is that?
This is exactly the point. The Gandhi statue will make that very much so. So this is what happens when you have heroes who don't look like you. And then they show them the black doll, they say, which one is the ugly doll? They say the black doll. Which one is the stupid doll? The black doll. Which one is the bad doll? The black doll. They say, which one looks like you? And they have to pause because they realize, oh, I'm black. This means I need to start acting stupid, dumb, bad, so forth and so on. So for us to have these images, and again, I mentioned, if I ask you the first depiction of the world as round, some of you would say Galileo. However, you would be wrong because you can go to the Metropolitan Museum today and see the sarcophagus of Weresh Nefer and see the world depicted as round there. If I ask you who traveled to the so-called New World first, you may say Christopher Columbus, but you would be very wrong because Abu Bakr II traveled there. And you can look up all of this information. But even, our students here, they didn't get this in creche. They didn't get it in primary. They didn't get it in JHS. They didn't get it in SHS. They haven't gotten it at university. So when you start hearing people like our unfortunate sister there who says, oh, it shouldn't be demolished, this is what you would expect, because this is the natural result of miseducation, diseducation, and anti-education. All these great Africans who I'm talking about, I would doubt she knows even a single one. So then you're left to only try to choose between which white or which Indo-Aryan.
Would you blame the academia, if like the academia, for lack of this important information in our institutions?
I would say this entire situation is an indictment of what I would refer to as the miseducation, diseducation, and anti-education system. If this is the end result, it would make it very difficult for us to say we have an education system, because any knowledge that comes to us, we should ask ourselves a few questions. How does it relate to us? How is it relevant to us? And how is it relative to us? So if Gandhi comes, we say, okay, well, what did Gandhi have to do with African people? If you just ask that single question, that's critical thinking, and then it will lead you to start finding out, well, what did he do when he was in South Africa?
All right, another message coming in from Richard in Accra says that a very educative and insightful show. Kudos, Hayford, and thanks to your guest. Thank you, Richard, for this great message coming in. Let me ask you this. You were one of the vanguards in pushing, in seeing it removal from our campuses. It's still there. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so we did a petition, and in the petition we sent it to the University Council. From my understanding, the University Council is to meet in 2 days or so, where they will take some decision on it. Now, for us, that's all we're waiting for. Now, in between that, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs came out of left field and said, oh, we're going to take it down. Now, to my understanding, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't have jurisdiction, or they're not over statue removals or things of that nature, that it should be an internal university issue. Now, if that's the case, we had the petition, over 1,906 or so have signed that petition. There was a counter petition of those who would like to worship this, what we could call false idol. Now, from that, they've had 230 signatures. Now, just from public opinion alone, you understand that there's a proverb that basically says, and it's to say that even if a liar takes 1,000 years to go on a journey, and one single day someone who tells the truth can catch up to them and overtake them. And this is what we're looking at. Even after decades of misinformation, disinformation, and anti-information about Gandhi, that as soon as there's some knowledge in the system, you can't make people be stupid again. You can't make people be ignorant again. Now knowledge of who Gandhi was and who he was in relationship to African people is out there. And it's like smoke. You can't tell the smoke, go back down into the flames. It's gone. Knowledge is out.
Yes, now you calling for its removal. Who would you have recommended to replace Gandhi, the effigy there?
Very good. Now, myself and some of my colleagues, along with Gandhi Must Fall, and I really don't want to disparage too greatly the so-called Gandhi Must Stand people, because in a sense, they're actually on our side. Through their argumentation or lack thereof, through their research or lack thereof, they've driven more people to us than we could have done alone. So just us telling people the truth, it's like people have seen a clean glass of water and they've seen a dirty glass of water. So just by seeing the dirty glass, they've driven so many people over to our side. So we can even say to some degree that there are just two branches of the Gandhi Must Fall movement, the authorized one and then the unauthorized one, but all of us are working ultimately for the same goal. Now, what I would like to see, and I've given a recommendation that I would like to see something like a unity statue, where even to this day, NPP versus NDC is something like Dankwa Busia versus Nkrumah. I would like some type of statue that incorporates perhaps Dankwa on one side, Nkrumah on another side, putting a graduation cap on a very important female, whether it be Annie Giagi, whether it be Salome, who first did the flag. I think the symbolism of seeing them come together in order to, do this for a woman student, I think it would speak volumes. But one thing that we've even started to do, we've had past vice chancellors who said they would be willing to raise funds for that and really step up for that, of the University of Ghana. So what we would like to do is perhaps leave it open to the public. This Gandhi statue was put there without consultation. It was just thrown over there. Imagine if we just asked the people, what do you think? And as people start to learn about, and that would even force people to start learning African history and to learn who our heroes and heroines were, because to this day we still don't even know all these names I mentioned. If we found anyone on campus who knows more than one,
all right. Anyway, yes, the lack of it has brought up these important, truths about the man. Thanks so much, Dr. Obadele Kambon, Research Fellow, Institute of African Studies, University of Ghana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
Yes, that's what time would allow us for today's edition of Lecture Hour. And we come your way with a part 2, something on Fidel Castro next week. Thank you so much for making time to listen to Lecture Hour today. My name is Hayford Yabua. Up next is the Asiko Group, and they are on standby. Don't go away. Stay tuned in. I leave you with this beautiful piece once again from Nanaya Yakuye, featuring Papimpong.
Every man for himself, that's what we like to say. But we all want the same thing, peace and unity. You and me.